Non-duality and time. So time is the perfect concept to use to examine how dual we are in our lives, just how habitually we cling to duality just because of things that we've been taught that we haven't bothered to examine. And kind of in a nutshell, that's what non-duality is about anyway. It's non-duality, Advaita, is a word that means not two. And so it's basically saying, look at how we always divide things into two and three and four and more and more and more. But everything is actually unity. And we have to, if we just simply stop the dividing, the unity is obvious. So time, we usually don't even dive into how we're thinking about that because we just assume it operates in a certain way. I mean, right there, we assume that it is something that can operate, right? So our basic idea about time is that there was the past, that's done, we're now, and we're going into the future. The future is before us, the past is something that happened previously. And we also think that that past is very fixed. You know, we write it down in history books. You know, this happened, then that happened, then this happened. Now it's now. Sidebar. You'll notice that now is always the modern world, no matter how then it now is. And we're going into the future. So why would we examine that? Because there's other ways to look at it. So let me give you a more native perspective of many stories that we hear about time. And in this perspective, the past is what has gone before us. And we are following the past along. And the future is coming along behind us. And so we are creating the situation that the following generations will live in. And what has gone before us is vast, and it's everything. It's all of our ancestors, all the people ancestors, and the plant and the animal ancestors. And I mean, you can take this thing that has gone before us all the way back to the Big Bang and before, and it's like we're following along in this in the footsteps of this vast wisdom. One little twist and the story just completely changes, right? Now, here's what's fun about non-duality. We can switch back and forth because we are the masters of our minds. We're the masters of our perception. So let's do that. Let's go back to our habitual training on time. We're heading into the future. We're in the now. The past is everything that has happened before. March. On we go. The thing that's so interesting about this perspective is that the future always feels so nebulously invisible, doesn't it? Like, oh, and it feels like a little scary too. Which, and we'll get into this later, which is why we feel that we constantly have to develop and improve so that we're better for this future that we're going into. The past, done. Nothing can be done about it. We can learn from our mistakes. That's just about it. Okay. Future's in front of us. Past is behind us. We're marching along. Let's switch. Now, the past is this vast vision in front of us. The past has gone. The past is before us. and we are following it along. And the future is this ripeness of all generations coming along after us. Switch back. Future's in front of us. Past is in front of us. See how we can just take our mind and we can just switch, and we can also examine what's the difference. What's the difference in my perception? What's the difference in my feeling of who I am when I switch just this one little concept. Okay, now that we know that we can kind of just switch around and play with our concepts of time that way, what is time at all? Does it even exist? Is it even happening? Right? We kind of feel like, especially when we, in our habitual one, that we feel like we're in time and we're moving forward into this future. We kind of feel like time is a thing. But in either of these perceptions, time itself doesn't actually exist. Like, time isn't a thing that's moving. It's not a thing that's standing still. I mean, it's literally a concept that has no grip to it, no substance. Cool, huh? We can play with our brains and our perceptions in this way, and this is what gets us unstuck. So I'd really quickly like to point out an author that everyone should be reading and watching on YouTube. His name is Tink Tinker. He is a Native American wisdom scholar, and he has some really great hard-hitting books. They're really hard-hitting, so I really recommend reading them. We don't always have to read just goopy, wonderful stuff, right? Hard-hitting. It's very hard-hitting about what Western civilization has done to Native Americans particularly, and indigenous people across the world. And what he points out is how damaging our perception of time is, and how damaging it is that we cling fiercely to this perception and belief, and that we don't examine it. Because, as I was talking about before, when you have this idea that we are creatures that are in time, then we've put ourselves into kind of a nebulous, not real situation. And this future is like this scary emptiness that we're moving forward into. And in order to feel safe, we have to constantly constrict our world and make tons of rules and own things. And most important, we have to constantly try to improve. Progress. Literally, the idea of progress relies on our idea of time. Flip our time around again to where the past is this vast field of wisdom that's in front of us, and we are following this along. That's not scary. That's feeling like we're being held in something marvelous. And so when you're living in that state, the urge, the feeling to constantly improve and fix things is gone. We don't need to constantly improve and fix things, because here we are, this fabulous awakeness inside this moving force of reality that's held in the wisdom of our ancestors and what's gone before us. So progress, the idea of progress, is literally what is destroying the world, because you have to have the idea of progress in order to have a society that runs on capitalism. Communism is exactly the same. You have to have, it was also based on the idea of progress and development. And that's why communism so quickly fell apart. Because it kind of had the principles of community, but because it was still based on ownership and time, this fixed idea of time, it was literally the same idea that was trying to have a different structure, and it fell apart. Our society will fall apart if we don't start using different principles. One of the things Tinker talks about is he has this whole book that's a whole rant about how the environmental organizations and everything are trying to save the world by creating sustainable development. Stop for a second now, now that your brain's kind of percolated out of some of the things that it's been fixed in, and think about sustainable development. Literally, those are two opposite words. You can't have sustainable development. You can have sustainable life, which is literally living without development. It would have to be living without any development. It would have to be living in a situation where you think everything's fine. We don't have to improve it constantly. Interesting. Okay, non-duality. What does this have to do with non-duality? Well, let's do a little enlightenment experience, because honestly, non-duality just means enlightenment is what we're talking about. Getting into the state of knowing that you're connected to everything, of being so connected to it that you can't unconnect. So, Eckhart Tolle wrote a really good book, The Power of Now. His attempt was to get us out of time, but he hadn't really had the opportunity to see these different ways of looking at time. That you can have the past, present, future going in front of you, or you can have the past going in front of you and you're in it, or you can literally have where it's not moving at all. We're just here. That's kind of more what he was talking about. So to make this little exercise work, I want to just bring in my own experience of waking up, because really it's the only one I know. It's the one I have to use to try to help other people. So I was a sannyasin. I was with Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh. He's called Osho now. And he was very sick. And he kept saying that when he died, all of his sannyasins would be enlightened. I was young, trusting, either kind of naive and stupid, or maybe I was brilliant. But what happened was I lived in Idaho, United States, and he was in Pune, India. He died. I was still asleep. I wake up in the morning and I boot up my computer and I get on the listserv, and it's like, Bhagwan died in the night. I temporarily forgot my addiction to time, or else I used my concept of time in a way that actually worked, because I thought, okay, I'm enlightened when he dies. But he had died in the middle of the night. So obviously, I became enlightened while I was sleeping, and I woke up and it was already a done deal, right? So instead of sitting there and waiting for enlightenment to happen, I just kind of assumed it was already there. I look inside and there was nothing. Because when you're not projecting this past future thing, you're just in that now, that Eckhart Tolle now. There was nothing. and that nothing is also vastly connected to everything, because really nothing and everything's kind of the same thing. And I'm like, whoa, there's nothing there. And I stepped back into myself and realized I was the one experiencing this. Boom, there. So let's reproduce that same little scenario for you. So relax. This isn't serious. There is a Hindu, what do we call it, technique, that if you say Sri Ram, Jai Jai Ram, I think 101 times, that you will become enlightened. So think about that, because all of us, we're using time, right? Saying Sri Ram, Jai Jai Ram 101 times takes a little while to do it. They count on beads to make sure that they're getting enough repetitions. So think, if you say Sri Ram, Jai Jai Ram 100 times, and now you're saying it the 101st time, and you expect that when you get to the end of that, something will then happen, you are stuck in the future past hallucination of time that we have. But if you take this totally literally the way I did, you get to Sri Ram, Jai Jai Ram 100 times, and then while you're saying it that 101st time, by the time you get to the end of it, boom, deal's done. And you just totally trust that, yep, deal's done. I'm there. I'm as dumb as Zareen. Boom. You're going to look inside and there's going to be nothing there, because there never is anything there. Now, I actually think 101 times, that's a lot of times. I think we could just do it 3 times, because the first time you're kind of getting into it. Second time you're relaxing a little bit. Third time's when the deal happens. When it happens. It doesn't happen after that repetition, right? So first of all, let's practice our little phrase so we can do it together. Sri Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Sri Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Okay? It's just a simple little phrase saying, yay Ram, yay Ram. Ram being, a Hindu deity. Okay, here we go. You ready? Smile. We're going to do it 3 times. Sri Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Sri Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Sri Ram, Jai Jai Ram. It's nothing. Nothing happens. That's the secret right there. Non-duality and time. Our left brain has to quit. Our full intelligence has to just be there, because it's always there. It's never shut off. Changing our idea of time changes everything. Welcome to the awake world.